We'll come back to that. Let's talk to Philip
I
Kiszely.
wonder whether we should actually make him more sexually
alluring,
more androgynous, right? You said quickly,
yes.
Right? Do you think that there's a suggestion that we could actually move their sexuality as the month goes by, so that way you're satisfying?
Well, so he starts off as a bloke in January,
and then moves very slowly towards the other side as the month wears on.
Well, I mean, we could have a vote on all of the great thing about this, the sort of the flexibility of independent
television
news and TV is you can do anything you want. You do whatever you like, as Philip will tell you. Philip, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. Can I just say, first off, I'm a size 10, so let's just kind of get that.
Mrs. Kiszely, I'm sure, is very much appreciative of that. I'm also a size 10, funnily enough, but I didn't want to boast.
Well, there you are. We are.
That's why I could never get home in the morning. Anyway, let's talk about crime and punishment, because today, despite what Sadiq Khan says, despite what Fraser Nelson says, and all the other kind of commentariat types from the left. Crime is a massive problem. We've now got the head of Marks and Spencer's retail saying we might have a sort of weekend of rioting and looting on our hands because nobody's going to stop them.
Yeah, it feels as though things are just unraveling, doesn't it? It feels as though things are just falling apart. I read that there are 16,000 instances of violence and abuse to shop workers every single day in this country. Now, those are the only ones that are recorded, so it's probably going to be somewhere around, right? So that is appalling. The problem is that these are children. Actually, the Clapham thing was children running riot, and what we've got are the daily habits and culture of Mogadishu. It almost seems like being transplanted onto the streets of London, and it isn't just London. I've said before. I think I've said on this show. I've been in shops up here in Leeds, and I've just experienced blatant shoplifting and nobody doing anything about it. You know, I just quoted that figure, that 16,000. And again, it's much more. But the people who are being abused and getting hit and punched and stabbed and God knows what here are shop workers who graft really hard, but they're on kind of like minimum wage or very small. You know? So it just feels as though the ordinary people are being punished here because the police are so stupid and so ridiculous, and Sadiq Khan and Keir Starmer won't do anything about it. There is a culture of laissez-faire, anything goes. It fits with the culture of not working, doesn't it? Which we've already talked about on this show. Something for nothing, and it's belligerent something for nothing. What? My God, you object to me taking something from your shop? Well, I'm going to punch you or stab you because of that. That really seems to be the culture in this country now. I think it's really good that that Marks and Spencer's and the Co-op and Tesco are speaking out about this and saying, well, actually, rubbish. What's the Keir Starmer, not Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan? They're completely interchangeably horrible, aren't they? You know, one is the other for me. But what Sadiq Khan is saying is just rubbish. It's simply not true. And I know it. You know, I was in London yesterday. I work in London every week, so Westminster's not so bad, although it's one of the crime hotspots in the country. But I was doing stuff at Talk last night, go over to London Bridge, and there are so many people there. It's such a melting. It's quite intimidating, actually, on the streets around there. And London is terrible. But as I say, it's bad in Manchester, it's bad in Yorkshire.
Do you find it, Philip, let me ask you this question, because I obviously used to walk around London Bridge quite a lot, and I found it becoming more menacing, I would say, in the last year or so, where suddenly there's somebody bumping into you and they're kind of looking at you in a kind of aggressive way. And I'm sorry to say, quite often they're young black kids who are kind of looking for trouble, effectively, it seems to me.
Well, it just feels as though that particular area, it's so densely populated. Now, lots of people are working around there, and, you know, there's lots of industry and, media industry and stuff like that. But it is so densely populated, and there's a general atmosphere of menace on the street, right? You know, and I remember it was only a few months ago. So I've been to I'd been to Westminster, I was working, and I was just on the tube, and there was some kind of lunatic taking his clothes off and screaming abuse at women in Arabic, or what sounded like Arabic. And I thought, we are importing these people, we are importing these lunatics, we're importing a mental health tsunami from people from terrible places, but we're also cultures that, one, think of women as second-class citizens, and two, think of women and children, as we know, Afghanistan, etc., as barter material and just sexual playthings. So it's not just about low-level shoplifting, it's all connected and nobody's doing anything about it, and that's the thing that I'm really worried about. This is the kids thing is really important, because we're looking at a feral future that's UK, that is our feral future, and it's really, really frightening, because they don't care, they don't give a toss, and they don't give a toss because the adults don't give a toss. Right. You know what I mean? If they're not going to get punished for it, of course they're going to do that stuff.
And they don't have anything, and so they think that in order to get something, they just take it. My father used to say this when I was growing up in the 60s and 70s. He said, one day, the people who don't have anything will just come for what you've got, and they'll just take it. And he was right, and that's kind of where we are.
It's called socialism. Yeah. People have this kind of entitlement, and you see it all the time, and it isn't just about society, it's really about culture, and it's embedded in education. There's a culture of envy, there's a culture of disgruntlement, and it's like, who are you going to blame? Okay, for your own stupidity, your own stupid personality, and your own shortcomings. I know. I'll blame rich people and Jews, right? Yeah. That's what I'll do, and that seems to be the culture we have in this country at the moment.
I know. Well, have a look at this, right? Because this sort of feeds into it, and I wanted to get onto this earlier. I was talking to Kelvin. Here's a Sky News reporter, right? Everyone's getting very excited at the moment. Sun have done it on the front page. The Artemis 2 moon mission. Where apparently the toilet didn't work for a while, so they've gone with that. Houston, we have a problem. Quite funny. But here's a Sky News
as long as it was just the we.
Well, let's hope so.
I mean, I hate to think what's flying around in space.
Here's a Sky News reporter, right, talking about the original Apollo missions to the moon and how out of touch they were with reality. Check it out.
Yeah, and they are going for all humanity this time, Apollo was all white men. And this time it's not. And I think that really speaks volumes for the journey that NASA has been on. And this is a much more representative crew. And you can feel emotional about that.
So you can feel emotional about it, Philip, because it's a much more representative crew, because they're not all white men.
Well, they're not all white men. The toilet works. They've probably got a plaque for Scott Mills next to the...
That's a great idea. That is the best idea of the day, that. Scott
Mills toilet plaque.
Scott Mills shoots to the moon.
He's white though, isn't he? He's white, so God knows what he's been getting up to. But so he can't be the Kazi ambassador in space.
But he is gay though, so at least he ticks one box. Come on.
He ticks one box, and we don't know yet. But allegedly, he could be other things as well. He could be other identities, let's say. Yeah. Isn't it? It's a kind of mental illness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a kind of mental illness.
But these Sky reporters, they drive me insane. They're so... I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Nobody wants to talk about these black kids in Clapham. They're just kids. They're not black kids. Can't say that. And the Sky reporters literally getting misty-eyed because there's somebody who's not white on a rocket. What's wrong with them?
Well, they could get a load of black kids up there, and they could trash the rocket. They could, they could go on the rampage in space. Right?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Send them all up there.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. When we have a rocket, if we could afford one, right? Apart from putting Keir Starmer on it, right? What we say is, right, anybody caught in M&S, right, shoplifting, they go on the rocket. The difference is it's a one-way rocket. We're not bringing the bloody thing back, and you can start thieving on the moon.
you can start nicking those rocks. I mean, it is just again, it's bizarre, isn't it? we punish and demonize the people who do things, and we deify people who don't just simply. If I'm not saying all black people, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
kind of equality thing. I was just thinking about Lenny Henry, the man who
Another
has
genius.
a bypass, has never made anybody laugh in his life. The last thing he did that, was a stab at humour was wearing a pair of big glasses and calling himself Trevor McDonagh or whatever he was,
Right.
that kind of thing. So he's just won a diversity award, hasn't he?
He has.
For the colour of his skin,
Really?
but not for being funny. Yeah.
Right.
So
Well, the
that
funniest thing
is
he came
where
out
we
with
are.
recently was when he said that we should set aside £1 trillion or something for
Yeah.
reparations
No, it was not.
for the rest of the Commonwealth.
It was 19 trillion.
19 trillion. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. 11 gazillion pounds. Let's get 11 gazillion pounds.
Almost as much as Dawn French weighs. Sorry.
And let's get ourselves in a position where the ancestors of slaves here would be paying reparations to the descendants of slaves here would be paying reparations to the descendants of slavers in Africa, because Africa was built on slavery. So it's all stupid. This is the thing. We live in a stupid, woke, activist, dumb society which is self-harming, and it's all of these things from space, to Scott Mills, and his Kazi plaque, to all of it. It is just stupid, and you look at the news and you think, my God, get me out of here.
I know. It is absolutely and utterly unbelievable. We've also got the other big story of the week, which is Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods, who's for some reason, inexplicably, I mean, I don't know if you can answer me this, Kelvin. Why have they put him on the front page of the Daily Mail? I don't understand that at all.
Well, I do think that picture, I presume that's about pain, and that's not about listening to Keir Starmer's latest outburst.
This is the picture here,
Right.
if you haven't seen it.
I mean, that is a hell of a bloody picture, isn't it?
It is.
How many more
dear.
How many more times? I mean, this is the greatest. If you're interested in golf, the greatest golfer of any of our generation.
I suppose he's a sort of he's an iconic figure, isn't he, of sport? He's not just a golfer.
Yeah, correct. But the way he made his name was through being an athlete of astonishing performance. Yeah. Today, if anybody did know who Tiger Woods was, it's for a completely different reason. That every time he climbs into a car, he rolls it over.
It's astonishing.
And I'm surprised
he's
not a new
turn a Range
Top
Rover
Gear.
over. Yeah.
Huh?
It's quite hard to turn a Range Rover over.
He must have made a shocking error in that.
Yeah.
And actually, what the cops said was that had there been another car coming in the other direction, this would not have been about Tiger Woods being done for driving while under drugs. It would be about Tiger Woods' funeral.
Yeah.
This was a very serious thing. And when you think, everything that he's got, it goes to show that within humanity there is a self-destruct button, of which Scott Mills is now facing the problem due to that plaque now being taken down. among all the problems that Scott Mills, can you imagine his PR coming in? Scott, have you heard? No. What's going on? They've taken the
Fleet
plaque
Services.
down.
Yeah.
Fleet
It's all
Services.
over.
Oh my God! Please let me just have a few minutes.
Yeah, it's the cherry on the cake, that, isn't it? That's the kind of thing that could push you over the edge. Oh my God, the missus has left me. I've lost my job. My house is going. I wear a size 7 shoe, and
Yeah, that is true.
It's all over.
sorry, Kelvin.
No, it is extraordinary, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I remember the night. In fact, I was working the night that the first Tiger Woods story broke, and you could scarcely believe it, because the first story said Tiger Woods has crashed into a fire hydrant outside his house in Florida, right? And you kind of go, that sounds a bit weird. Why was he like? Did he put his foot slipped, and turns out his wife's chasing him, that beautiful blonde wife he had, with a 9-iron, because she's found out he's been banging sort of cocktail waitresses, as they say in The Godfather, Goodfellas, 3 at a time, And he was apparently completely insatiable.
Godfather.
He'd finished playing his round of golf. He would go to the strip club and, stay there pretty much for the rest of the night. helping himself to all the various goods on display.
By the way, that sounds like a great life, doesn't it?
It doesn't sound bad, does it?
No.
And then suddenly Mrs. Woods finds out, and she comes at him with an iron.
Well, there you go. I suppose if you've got an appetite and talent in one area, it's often replicated in other areas. And I think it's sometimes as well, that rush of being so successful and as Kelvin says, being iconic, sometimes when that's over, it must be really, really difficult to, adjust to a kind of everyday life. Now, his everyday life is going to be completely different to mine or most people's, but that adjustment is still there. And you can understand in a way that you're just wanting that adrenaline rush. You're wanting that thrill. And it's the kind of thing especially with kids who become, pop stars and rock stars and stuff like that. When it feels as though it's all over when you're 27 or 28, you've got the rest of your life to live. Sometimes I can understand in a way how it might be a little bit kind of disconcerting for them. Yeah. And to do this kind of thing, it's actually a really serious thing, isn't it? Because it's self-destructive behavior, and it doesn't matter how rich you are. It doesn't matter what you've got or what you've done. Or you're still, you're still prey to these demons, and you need help.
Well, it's interesting actually, because I was going to ask you, Kelvin, because you, having been at the sharp end of sort of journalism for most of your career, people do find, people come in and out of your office, and you've got the latest boy band here, or the Spice Girls there, whatever. You were portrayed, I think, in the Spice Girls movie, weren't you? Which somebody...
by the way, I'm portrayed in the new play in the print.
Yes, I saw that.
In the print, there's a bloke plays me, a loudmouth, rather thick journalist, which I identified with some of that. And yes, and actually the play got good reviews. The bizarre aspect is, so it's got good reviews almost everywhere. Yeah. The bizarre aspect is that the Times and the Sunday Times don't appear to have reviewed it.
No.
Which is ridiculous, because I am told, I'm going in a couple of weeks, I am told that Murdoch emerges very well in the Wapping dispute, which is true, by the way. He was absolutely calm, despite the fact that the whole bloody thing could have been torn apart. And that I just emerge as a loudmouth lout. And Andrew Neil is a rather camp figure, right? Now, the funny thing about
he actually is a bit camp, though, isn't he?
Actually, Kelvin, can I ask you because you were right at in the eye of the storm for donkey years as the most successful editor probably in history. What was the come down like from that? Did you think, oh God, well, what do I do? I mean, because there's loads of things you can do, but you're not going to have that.
No, you're not. Right, there's a good expression for that. You can. Richard Desmond used it actually with me. He said you can either have the girl or the gelt. And I was fortunate in that I viewed my job as an office-based job. I didn't go to the opening of an envelope. I didn't go anywhere. I never said anything, and that was fine, right? So I actually give credit to Murdoch, quite a lot of credit to Murdoch for not sacking me on multiple occasions. After all the big journalistic scandals happened in my lifetime.
But it's also about influence, though, isn't it? So you could argue that. Sorry to just this, but you could argue that you were massively influential in getting Margaret Thatcher back into power through a phenomenal.
Do you know what? I would take issue with that, and I'll tell you why. Really, what you're doing is you're riding a wave. When you're in populism.
Yeah, but you're also recognising the wave, which not everybody can.
Okay. But those voters for Thatcher and for change were actually white van man who was actually reading The Sun.
Yeah.
So I can remember the proudest moments I have was when I'm coming to work in a chauffeur-driven car. How bloody ridiculous is that when you're a working class paper? But anyway, you're a chauffeur-driven car, seeing white van men with The Sun. In front of their steering wheel. That told me that we were doing right. And in fact, when I didn't see that on the journey in, and say my journey was 25 miles, I used to actually upbraid colleagues, staff, fellow executives across the building, circulation people, to try and discover, well, what is it that we're doing wrong that I haven't seen anybody in. So there was a guy. But to your other point, which is a very reasonable point, is that you did not recognise that you had influence. Okay, that was the influence was not in you as an executive or as an editor. It actually lay above you in the shape of Rupert Murdoch. You viewed him as the influencer, and your job, you were a handmaiden to keeping that influence going.
Yeah.
So when I left...
but he was also good at picking the people to do that on his behalf, of which you were
so
one,
Murdoch had no news sense, has none of that, right? His judgments, I used to take absolutely no notice of them. It's bloody ridiculous. We'd all go bust, you know. And in fact, he used to call up and go, what do you got today? And you'd say, right, you could either tell the truth, which was you had a story about an elephant rogering a nun in just outside Clapham High Street, right?
And there is a plaque for that now on Clapham High Street.
And if you did do that, that then led to him then shouting at you, saying, yes, bloody terrible, you're taking the paper down market, you're ruining it, you're a disgrace to Nanny to the Sun, you're a disgrace to journalism, and give you the whole 9 yards, right? I decided I was sick of that. So what I used to do was, when he used to ask, well, what do you got today? I used to get the Evening Standard when it was a paper version, turn to page 2 and read out whatever the headline was as the page 2 lead. So I bizarrely, it always turned out to be, Prime Minister to crack down on benefit cheats. And used to say, yeah, there's a big story here. The Prime Minister is going to crack down on benefit cheats. He said, yeah. He said, that's the trouble with your country, full of bloody dole bludgers, right? Dole bludgers. Anyway, that would then go away. So that ended the conversation. The following morning, he'd then call up if he was in London, or even 1 o'clock in the afternoon if he was in New York, and go, I just seen your paper. You didn't tell me anything about this elephant and the nun. I thought you were doing a story about the dole bludgers in your country. Oh, I don't think, no, not me, Rupert. I think the Times has got something on it, and I know the Evening Standard.
But the great thing about the newspaper business as well in those days, and maybe even not so much now, but is that it's always a movable feast. You know, I used to have the same problem. I worked for a guy called Richard Addis, who was appointed as the editor of the Daily Express. Very, very well-read, incredibly bookish character. Went to Cambridge. He was from the Addis Brush family, and very posh. Went to Eton and all that. Didn't similarly know a news story if it fell on him. You know, and I was a night editor, I was putting the papers in, and he would ring up at sort of 10:30 at night. Well, what are you doing with my paper? And I'd go, I'm not telling you. I'm just not telling you. And he would go, what do you mean you're not telling me? And it was just because he wasn't there. And if you've got your hands on the machine, and you do what you like. And
how long did he last?
I think he lasted. He got replaced by Rosie Boycott.
Oh, really?
Didn't he?
So
I mean, that's. Yeah.
Right. Isn't that what's happening now with the independent media and the excitement of this kind of stuff and doing something that is completely different and unprecedented?
Correct.
Well, this is the closest thing for me.
We're still doing it.
This is the closest thing for me to the kind of Wild West days of the Fleet Street empires, you know, where you could literally just do whatever you wanted and explain it tomorrow. You know, and somebody rings up and goes, what the hell were you thinking? You go, I don't know, can't remember. I've taken some smelling salts. I thought it was a good idea at the time, you know.
But I suppose the point, we're making up the new rules as we go along.
Yeah, totally.
That's
what's great about what we're doing now. And we're able to speak to you. There's nobody in my ear going, we've got to get to the news. You know, you can get rid of this guy. You know, it's getting a bit boring now.
Well, the other thing,
because nobody's going to do that.
The other thing they're not saying, we've got to go to adverts.
Yes. Well, because the adverts are already playing, even as we speak.
Yeah,
you know, we are actually making money because those people who are watching this show, who have not paid premium prices to watch it, are getting interrupted all the time by an advert.
When you say premium prices,
Yeah.
if you had the choice between having the number of people who watch you paying nothing and the number of people who watch you paying £5 a month, which would you prefer?
I would like everyone who has made a view of my show to give me £1, because then I'd have 13 million.
Oh, is that right?
We've had 13 million views on this show since we started.
Okay.
Right?
And how many of them are unique? Do you know?
I've no idea.
Okay.
That's a very difficult question. I'll refer you to my colleague in the commercial department, who's over there.
Commercial and HR.
I think they're all unique, and I think that really shows. One, it shows the power of this new media, because the show hasn't been going that long, so and the views are phenomenal, and they're only getting bigger and bigger, and it's an exciting show. But two, it really illustrates how the mainstream media just doesn't speak for anybody anymore, and it's not just content, it's the format as well, isn't it? But it's that very straight-laced, very disciplined format that people don't really tend to want that much more anymore. And so I think there's something really exciting happening, and this is very much part of it.
I love it, and I love that you're part of it as well. Philip, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely Easter. Having been told that, having said that I don't have to be told what to do, I've just been told what to do.
Can he watch
but you can actually watch this as well, because this is how television used to be made and how good it used to be. This is one of the most iconic clips, I think, that anyone's ever seen. Wow. Isn't that incredible?
Utterly perfect.
You just don't... I don't think there's anybody now in television that could even make that anymore.
Why do you say that?
Just the way that he points to the rocket and it goes off. It's just fantastic.
Well,
you
did it happen in real time, or was that spliced together?
No, because you couldn't do that then.
It was all one take.
You could only do it in one take.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was all one take.
Do you know what? If that happened now, the guy would say, and this is what you get, and then bugger all would happen.
Yeah.
They'd then stop for a second.
Yeah.
They'd be having a cup of tea out of the thermos flask, and the bloody rocket would go up.
That's it. Yeah. Or they just make it AI. Because I think that's the trouble. AI makes everybody lazier, because now you don't have to watch anything. You don't have to worry about watching a rugby match live. You can just pretend you're there or something. You know what I mean? It's just anyway.
I think there was a golden age of television, and it was the most important medium, not only in terms of education, but in terms of news, but also in terms of entertainment as well. And it probably came of age in the 60s and went right 70s to the 80s and went on the wane a little bit.
Well, there's a great movie, which you probably know about, called Network.
Yeah.
Where Peter Finch plays this mad news guy who loses the plot and ends up, I'm not going to give away the end of the film, but ends up just telling everyone, this is the most powerful thing in the world. The tube is what is everything. You learn everything you need to know from the tube. You do what the tube tells you.
You'd actually you could actually script a very good up-to-date network where actually you're running a national news station and your audience is simply going like that, and then you contrast it with what's happening in a shed or a back room or even an office or a studio somewhere in Vauxhall, right? Okay, well, wherever you are, Pudsey.
He's always giving it away.
Pudsey. Pudsey in Leeds,
Yeah, Pudsey, right? And you could even have a plaque to yourself. But there would be the story of the destruction of that guy as he goes increasingly mad.
I actually said this to Richard Wallace at Talk when they gave me the evening show. I said I want it to be like Network, and that was going to be the show, but it never worked out like that.
Whatever happened to Richard Wallace?
He's still there.
What does he do?
Nobody knows.
And and do you think, does he get well paid?
Oh yeah.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Richard, why don't you come on the show?
Come on, Richard,
and explain why you're costing shareholders of News Corporation so much money for your work.
It's not just news, though. It's entertainment, isn't it? And one of the things about television in what I call the golden age was that it reflected real life and real people. And it wasn't we've been talking about, you're not allowed to have white men. The great television often revolved around white men. And I'm thinking like brilliant dramas, comedy dramas like Minder. And I'm thinking brilliant comedies like Steptoe and Son and Only Fools and Horses. They were about relationships between people. And they were always about working class people. And what's happened with television is that the working class have been banished from television because it's full of chattering class idiots who hate the working class because they tend to vote Reform or Restore or Advance or anything like that. And there's a kind of ideological kind of pushback against the white working class. And that's why television isn't working, because it isn't speaking to the people who traditionally watch it.
No, exactly right.
Isn't it also
Philip, listen, we've got to
impossible?
leave it there because we've got to move on.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Jasmine Birtle.